Imagine this: you want happiness. You chase it. You run so hard after it through success, validation, relationships, money, personal growth. But the harder you chase, the more it slips away. Like trying to hold water in your hand by gripping tighter. It leaks through your fingers. That's the paradox. The more we pursue something, the more we push it away. Taoism doesn't just suggest this, it explains why. And once you understand it, you may never look at your goals the same way again. Let's start with a personal question. Have you ever desperately wanted someone to love you? You tried everything: being nice, being interesting, being successful, hoping they'd see your value. But it didn't work. Why? Because you were chasing, and chasing creates pressure. It creates fear. It changes the energy from presence to pursuit, from being to becoming. Taoism calls this Wu Wei non-doing, or effortless action. It teaches that the best things in life come not by force, but by alignment with the flow of the universe. Like a tree that grows not by striving, but simply by being rooted in the soil, open to sunlight, and patient with time.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
That same principle applies to ambition. Most of us are told to hustle, grind, chase our dreams. But Taoism whispers a different truth: stop chasing. Start allowing. Let's get real. How many times have you chased a goal, achieved it, and felt empty? The satisfaction faded quickly. The next goal appeared. The chase began again. It's a treadmill. You run, but you never arrive. Why? Because you're chasing the shadow of fulfillment, not fulfillment itself. Taoism says, when you let go of the chase, what you need begins to approach you. Not because the universe serves you like a genie, but because you've stopped interfering with its natural rhythm. Lao Tzu wrote, "The more you try to control, the less you can control." That's not just metaphor, it's neurological. When we're in pursuit mode, our brains are in scarcity. We're afraid, tense, reactive. We miss subtle cues. We make poor decisions. But when we're still, when we trust the process, clarity returns. Creativity returns. Peace returns. Have you noticed that ideas often come when you're not thinking about them? Or how love appears when you're not looking? That's Wu Wei in action. It's not laziness. It's intelligence that flows with the current, not against it. Let me ask you something challenging. What are you chasing right now? And more importantly, why? Is it because you truly desire it, or because you fear what happens if you don't get it? That's a serious question. Because if your chase is driven by fear, anxiety, or a hole in your self-worth, you're not moving towards something. You're running from something. And Taoism teaches us that kind of running creates suffering. Not because you're weak, but because you're out of sync with the way the Tao. The Tao isn't a God. It's not a belief system. It's a principle, a flow, like gravity. It doesn't punish or reward, it simply is. And when we align with it, life feels harmonious. When we resist it, life feels hard. So chasing is resistance. It says, I don't trust the moment. I don't trust myself. I need to force this. But the Tao says, let go. Trust. The river knows where it's going. And this isn't just poetic, it's practical. Let's look at relationships. When you chase someone, you create imbalance. You're acting from lack, not presence. But when you're grounded, centered, whole, you attract effortlessly. That's not magic. That's energy. Same with creativity. Have you ever forced yourself to be inspired? It doesn't work. But when you relax, when you walk in nature, take a shower, sit quietly, ideas bloom. That's the Tao at work. Effortless productivity. Stillness that moves. Power without pressure. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right amount, at the right time, in the right way. That's wisdom. That's mastery. That's what Taoism has been teaching for 2,500 years. And yet, our modern world is built on chasing. Social media says, more followers. Business says, more growth. Culture says, more hustle. But more is not the answer. Alignment is. You can chase all day and never arrive. Or you can become the type of person who naturally attracts what they desire by embodying it. You want peace? Be still. You want love? Be love. You want success? Be present. It's not passive. It's powerful. Because it transforms you from a seeker into a source. Now pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped chasing and started listening? Listening to your body, your intuition, the rhythm of your life. What if you trusted that you are already in motion toward what you need, and the only thing in your way is your own resistance? That's not complacency. That's clarity. And clarity is magnetic. It draws in opportunities, people, breakthroughs, not through effort, but through resonance. Think of a cat. It doesn't chase approval. It doesn't strive for purpose. It simply is. And yet people love cats. They're mysterious, calm, powerful. Taoism often points to nature for this reason. Rivers don't rush, yet they shape mountains. Trees don't force their growth, yet they reach the sky. What if we lived like that? What if we flowed instead of fought? But here's the twist. Letting go of the chase doesn't mean giving up the dream. It means shifting how you relate to it. You hold the vision gently. You act when it's time. You rest when it's not. You trust the unfolding. That's Tao. That's power. That's freedom. And if you're thinking, but what if nothing happens? That's the fear talking. That's the ego. The Tao isn't about guarantees. It's about trust. And trust is a leap. But it's the only leap that leads to peace. Letting go isn't failure, it's a skill. A high one. One of the rarest forms of human intelligence. And yet, our culture equates surrender with weakness. We're told to grip tighter, try harder, fight longer. But Taoism says, let go. Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. You're realizing that control is often an illusion, and clinging is what keeps you stuck. Surrender, in the Taoist sense, is not about abandoning your desires, it's about releasing your attachment to outcomes. And that's where true mastery begins. We've all had moments where we tried to force something, a relationship, a career move, even a creative project, and the more we pushed, the worse it got. That's because force creates friction. But when we step back, when we breathe, when we stop needing things to go a certain way, suddenly, movement happens. A new opportunity appears. A conversation flows. The idea comes. That's the paradox of the Tao. The less you grasp, the more things come to you. Why? Because you've stopped creating resistance. Let me give you an example. Think of an archer. The goal is to hit the target. But if the archer becomes obsessed with the result, if his hands shake from pressure, if his mind races with fear of failure, his shot will suffer. But if he focuses on his form, his breath, the process, the arrow flies truer. This is a Taoist metaphor. The outcome is shaped not by obsession with the outcome, but by presence with the process. So here's a question: are you more in love with your goal or the process of becoming the person who can embody it? Letting go is not about apathy. It's about alignment. It's about moving with life, not against it. And that requires trust, not blind belief, but deep inner knowing that the river knows where it's going, that you don't need to micromanage every current. You just need to stay in your boat, keep your balance, and steer when needed. But most of us jump in the water and try to push the river. That's chasing. That's ego. And it burns us out. Now, think about this. What are you holding on to right now that's weighing you down? Is it an old dream that no longer fits the person you've become? Is it a version of success that was never really yours to begin with? Is it a relationship that's more about fear than love? Taoism invites us to return to simplicity, to let go of what is not essential, to stop grasping at things that only create suffering. Because when we let go, we make space. And space is where magic happens. And here's the wild thing. Letting go of the need to control doesn't mean nothing happens, it means the right things happen. Not always what you expected. Often not what you planned. But what is aligned? What is real? What is ready? That's the kind of life Taoism points toward, not one of rigid goals and forced outcomes, but one of flow, receptivity, and quiet power. Let's go deeper. In the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, "By letting it go, it all gets done." That seems impossible in a world addicted to productivity. But it's true. When you release tension, you unlock capacity. When you stop resisting your circumstances, you find clarity within them. The moment you let go of needing something to happen now, you become available to what wants to happen next. That's not passivity, it's responsiveness. It's being in tune. Letting go also requires us to face our attachments. And this is where it gets hard. Because sometimes what we're chasing is not just an outcome, it's an identity. We're chasing being successful, worthy, important, loved. But those are not goals. They are emotional substitutes. And when we chase them, we forget that we already are those things. Taoism reminds us, you are whole now. You don't need to become something. You need to uncover what's already within. And this leads to a radical shift from seeking to serving. Instead of asking, how do I get what I want? We ask, how do I serve what is? That's surrender. That's Tao. You become a vessel, not a controller. A listener, not a manipulator. And paradoxically, in that posture, you become more influential, more impactful, more peaceful. Because you're not chasing power, you are power, expressed humbly. Think about nature again. The clouds don't try to be impressive. The sun doesn't shout. The ocean doesn't stress. And yet they shape the world without effort, without ego. That's what we call Wu Wei. Action through non-action, power through peace. You don't need to chase greatness. You just need to remove what blocks it. Fear, control, insecurity. And those things fall away when you let go. So here's your deep philosophical challenge. What would happen if you lived a week without chasing outcomes? What if you focused purely on presence, process, and receptivity? What would change in your mind? Your body? Your relationships? Your creativity? I dare you. Try it. You might discover that the life you've been chasing was waiting for you to stop running. Now imagine a society built on this principle. A world where we valued stillness as much as speed. Where we taught children not just how to achieve, but how to listen. Where leaders guided from presence, not pressure. Where success was measured not by accumulation, but by alignment. That's not utopia, that's possible. But it starts with us, with you, with letting go. And if your mind is saying, but how do I know it will work? You don't. That's the point. Taoism doesn't promise certainty. It offers peace with uncertainty. And that peace is worth more than any outcome you could chase. Because peace is not what you get after everything goes your way. Peace is what you find when you stop needing things to go a certain way in the first place. Stillness. It feels like a contradiction in a world screaming for more action, more hustle, more noise. But what if it's not a contradiction? What if it's the missing key? Taoism teaches that in stillness, the universe reveals itself. That doing less doesn't mean achieving less, it means interfering less with what is already unfolding. Think about that. What if all your effort was getting in the way? What if your constant motion was disturbing the very peace, clarity, and success you seek? Let's get personal. Have you ever had a moment where everything clicked not because you worked harder, but because you paused? Maybe a decision became clear after a walk. Maybe a conflict softened after you stopped trying to win. Maybe an answer came when you stopped asking the question. That's the Tao, not as magic, but as alignment. When you're still, you're not passive, you're available. Available to insight, to truth, to the deeper current beneath the surface chaos. We've been sold a lie that motion equals progress, that if we're not grinding, we're falling behind. But Taoism challenges that assumption. It says, the wise do not strive. Why? Because striving is often rooted in fear of not being enough, not having enough, not becoming enough. But when you're still, you reconnect with what's already enough. You become less reactive, more intentional, less stressed, more precise. Stillness sharpens your sword without you swinging it. Let's explore this with a metaphor. Imagine a muddy pond. If you stir it constantly, the water stays murky. But if you leave it alone, if you allow stillness, the mud settles. The water clears. Your mind is the same. Every time you chase, strive, worry, obsess, you're stirring the pond. Taoism teaches, sit quietly, let the mud fall. Clarity comes not by force, but by allowing. So ask yourself, how often do you mistake action for clarity? And what would happen if you paused before your next decision? Now, let's be clear, stillness isn't laziness. It's not avoidance. It's deliberate presence. In Taoism, the sage is not inactive, they're responsive, not reactive. They wait for the right moment. They act with precision. They conserve energy. And because of that, they accomplish more with less. Can you imagine that? Living in a way where your actions are so attuned to the moment that they create ripple effects without force, without burnout, without resistance. There's a quote from the Tao Te Ching that says, "Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. That sounds like a riddle, but it's profound. It means when you're aligned with the Tao, things happen through you, not by you. You become the vessel, not the driver. The wind moves the sail, not the sailor. The sailor simply adjusts the position. That's power, quiet, stable, effective. So why is stillness so rare? Because it requires trust. It requires us to stop proving ourselves, to stop performing, to stop being addicted to the illusion of control. And our ego hates that. It wants to do. It wants to fix. It wants to chase. But the Tao says, be still. The storm will pass. The answer will rise. The fruit will ripen. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. Let's bring this to relationships. When you're still, you stop projecting. You start listening. You notice subtle emotions. You respond with presence, not defensiveness. That changes everything. People feel seen, not managed. Loved, not fixed. That's the gift of stillness. It creates space for others to be themselves. And in that space, connection deepens, truth emerges, healing happens. In work, stillness creates wisdom. Before acting, you reflect. Before speaking, you observe. Before solving, you listen. That's leadership. That's mastery. Not frantic movement, but calm direction. And in a world addicted to noise, your stillness becomes magnetic. People will wonder why you're not stressed, why you're so clear, so centered. And they'll want what you have not because you chased it, but because you embodied it. So here's a radical challenge. What if your next breakthrough doesn't come from doing more, but from doing less? What if the next level of your growth is not in adding, but in subtracting? Subtracting noise. Subtracting pressure, subtracting the need to chase. Stillness is not an absence, it's a presence, a deeper one. The kind that listens before it speaks, that watches before it moves, that aligns before it acts. And that's the final paradox Taoism offers us. You get what you want most when you stop needing it. When you stop chasing love, you become lovable. When you stop chasing happiness, you become peaceful. When you stop chasing success, you become effective. Because you've stopped resisting the rhythm of life. You've stopped swimming upstream. You've become water, flowing clear, powerful. So let me ask you one last question. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing and started listening? Listening to the moment, listening to your breath, to the silence between the notes, to the wisdom in the pause. What would change if you believed, truly believed, that you don't have to force life to receive its gifts? Because here's the truth Taoism reveals. Life is already happening. The Tao is already flowing. You don't need to chase it. You just need to stop running away from it. This is where we end. Not with a bang, but with a breath. Not with an answer, but with a space. A space for you to feel what the chase has been hiding all along. Stillness. And in stillness, everything